It is late afternoon. I'm walking along a nearly deserted beach, ocean on my left, wide stretch of sand on my right. Up ahead, I notice some movement. It looks like someone struggling to drag something heavy across the vacant sand. Inspired by too many murder mysteries, I imagine someone dragging a body away from the scene of the crime for disposal. But as I get closer, I realize it's actually a woman using a beach towel to drag her cargo, which is a rock. The woman is petite, the rock is large. She drags it a few steps, rests, and repeats. Whatever her mysterious motive is, this woman clearly knows what she wants and is very determined to get it. In contrast, I have no idea what I want. I was a U.S. Air Force photographer living in my own apartment until I got discharged into a difficult economy with not enough savings. I spent about a month or so job hunting before I ran out of money, gave up, and moved back home. Now, in my mid-20s, I'm working part-time for minimum wage, taking some community college classes, and living with my parents. I feel like I've completed a trifecta of failure. And the reality of my reduced condition is just depressing. So to process my feelings, or maybe just to wallow in them, sometimes I like to take a long walk on a beach during the week. I can walk for miles without interacting with anyone. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm walking along a nearly deserted beach, ocean on my left, wide stretch of sand on my right, and just up ahead, the determined woman dragging her rock. She seems to be making steady, if somewhat slow, progress on her own, so I keep walking, focusing on my own problems. It's the better part of an hour later. I'm returning from my walk, and I find the determined woman with her rock. She's at the foot of a very short couple of steps leading up from the parking lot to the beach. I'm guessing she wants to get the rock up to the parking lot, but probably not strong enough to do that, which seems like a shame since she's already dragged her rock across at least 100 yards of sand, but now she's being thwarted by a very small change in altitude. I approach, gesture at the rock. "Excuse me, would you like some help with that?" She looks a little embarrassed, I guess. She explains that she wants to get the rock into her car, tells me she's an artist. She was walking down by the water when she found the rock, and she was immediately inspired by it. I see a lump, but she sees more. She tells me she needs to get this rock back to her studio. She asks, "Are you sure you want to help me?" And I said, "Yes." So she accepted. Preparing to lift the rock, I sit on my haunches and get a closer look. The rock is not what I expected. It's an ocean-smooth chunk of concrete, its jagged edges reduced to gentle curves. Broken off something larger, its internal composition exposed, I see the coarse aggregate, the varied collection of smaller rocks that make this rock more than what it seems at first glance. It is much more than just a lump. I give the rock an experimental heft and discover that it is not a rock or a chunk of concrete. It is, in fact, an eye-bulging, hernia-inducing boulder. This thing must weigh at least 100 pounds. I don't know if I can carry this to her car. But I admire this woman's determination, her willingness to lean into a problem. I want to help her succeed. So, with more good intentions than common sense, I lift with my legs, hobble up the steps, stagger across the parking lot, and drop the rock into her trunk as gently as possible without crushing my fingers very much. "Thank you so much for your help. I'm Lita." "You're welcome. I'm Richard." And with some parting words, Lita gets into her car and drives off with her rock. It's that evening. I've just arrived home feeling inspired to write about my encounter with Lita. I remember her parting words. As she got into her car, she paused, looked at me, smiled, and said, "Perhaps I'll name the rock for you." I think about the rock, created, then shaped and dropped on a beach by the currents of the ocean. It was lost, but now it's found, and inspiring Lita to create something new with it. It occurs to me that, like the rock, I was created and then shaped and dropped on a beach by the currents of my life. And it was that thought that helped me begin to understand that, unlike the rock, it wasn't enough for me to just exist until I was found. I needed to find my own inspiration and create something new with my life, which I eventually did. And now, who knows? Perhaps there is, somewhere out there, a work of art inspired by a rock named Richard.